Alrighty, welcome to Romera Records Virtual Cast. Today we have on John Wichert. How's it going?
Good, man. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a while since we've talked,
Yeah,
so basically
few
for
years.
for everybody who saw the in-person one that we did after or during the AAM program, this is basically going to be a catch-up for us, and we'll talk about how it changed our lives, how it affected us, and then some other stuff. We're big into college football and stuff like that, so we'll talk about that as well. But so yeah, man, let's pick up. You went to what was that company?
80M.
Yeah, ADM. So you went to
Yep.
ADM after the AAM program, and I think you weren't happy with with what happened there, right?
It was it was not a good fit.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
So what
Yeah.
what about it didn't you like? Like I know you were one of the people who first of all had the balls to say that, hey, I want a good place, like I want Florida, and then they ended up giving it to
I
you.
it wasn't even necessarily Florida, to be honest. I was open to locations and even more so open to jobs as well.
Hmm.
Whether it was in a I mean I'd obviously prefer a good location, but not not Decatur, Illinois, or the job that it was. And I tried to keep an open mind, and I went, and after less than a few months, it wasn't for me.
Mm. So you go there and you start working. What is it completely different than what you expected, or was it exactly what you expected? What happened?
Um, I really tried not to put any expectations on it, and
Mm.
that was part of going into it with an open mind. Um, I really did. Obviously, Decatur, Illinois was not high on my list of places to go. I approached the job with an open mind, um, and it's just the the manager that I worked for was interesting, put it that way. Um, it just like I said, it wasn't a good fit. I don't want to say anything too derogatory or not becoming like somebody. So
Yeah, absolutely. So after you leave there, where do you go?
it's funny how it all worked out. Within a week of arriving in Decatur, I got a call from one of those recruiting agencies, the military staffing agencies, that told me about a job, basically exactly what I was doing in Decatur, Illinois, available at a medical manufacturing company in Fort Lauderdale.
Hmm.
So I interviewed the guy that interviewed me, Eric Carter, great guy. His father was in the Navy. His father was an E9 in the Navy. So he had that kind of military sense of humor, and we just kind of got along. And he told me he wanted to hire me, and we had a great interview. And by that time, I was realizing that this was not a fit for me in Decatur, Illinois. I cut bait there, and I went home and did my final interview at that company and got a job there.
That's awesome. Did you have to go there to interview, or did you do like a virtual thing?
It was phone to start, and then virtual, and then the final was in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was what was the time frame? 'Cause I know we got out in April, and so COVID's like around the corner.
Well, COVID hit. I remember because I was at a wedding in Minnesota, January of 2020, and that's when it really started. When Kobe Bryant died,
Oh
it was
wow.
right then.
Hmm.
And I ended up getting sick on my way back from Minnesota,
Hmm.
and I swear I was one of the first people that got COVID.
Dang.
I don't
That's
know if I was patient
crazy.
zero, but
Yeah, yeah. That's crazy.
yeah, it was all within a span of 3 to 4 months that that took place. Yeah,
Okay.
so April, I didn't get to Decatur until May, and then started in July, August, the company that I work for.
Okay. So
Yeah.
are you with them now, or is
No,
okay?
I,
Let's keep this
so
going.
I was going to say, well, we'll get into another funny story. So I was pretty happy with the job that I had at that company, at a medical manufacturing company, doing automation, electrical, some mechanical, technician and stuff too. They made me calibrations coordinator because it was a regulated industry. So there was about 500 to 600 pieces of things that needed to be calibrated on a monthly basis.
Hmm.
So I was in charge of that whole program. And this was before I got out of the Coast Guard. So rewind here for a second. My second cousin, who is vice president of sales and marketing for a company in North America named EK Lambda, told me, my grandmother's funeral, he goes, I'm going to hire you. Okay, great. Didn't think anything of it. There was, fast forward now, I was working at the company, a medical manufacturing company, within, I don't know, a year or so. It was during COVID, so 2020, I would say. He calls me and says, the job closed because COVID, or I still want to hire you. Like, I didn't honestly think it was going to be a thing anyway. So it was always kind of this unicorn way out there, and I didn't really know what to make of it. 2021, November of 2021, I was about 2 weeks away from closing on my house in Pompano Beach, Florida, near Fort Lauderdale. He gives me a call and he goes, job's open. I go, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I'm 2 weeks away from closing on a house. I had my boat. I was like kind of starting my life. And he goes, it's open. Interview if you want. It's for a product marketing manager for an electronics company that they make power supplies, all different ranges of power. I go, shit, like I can't, I gotta do it. I gotta interview. I gotta at least see how I do. So I interviewed. I didn't actually interview with him. I interviewed with people that work with him. And apparently I did really well. They sent me out to the main office in San Diego for the final interview. They offered me the job. It was originally to go to San Diego. I knew they had an office in Dallas, Texas. And I didn't want to live in a refrigerator box in San Diego because of the cost of living. Because I was going to make the same amount whether I went to Dallas or San Diego.
Oh.
So I said, how about Dallas? And they go, yeah, we can make that work. And I go, then consider New York. And I worked for a year fully remote while I sold my house, got everything in order. And I just moved to Dallas, Texas, Plano, Texas to be exact, in May of this year.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm
when you are doing this remotely, is it like extensive work that's making it difficult, or you just here and there just piping in?
no. So it was actually more difficult being remote because you know how when you start a new job, you can bounce things off of people and you have a mentor. It's even harder remotely because this was not only a new job, company, new policy, new everything. It was a new career too. I joke and say I went from taking showers after work to now before work. So
Wow.
it's more sitting behind a desk, coming up with marketing ideas because they have me doing a lot with the social media marketing for the company. A lot of spreadsheets, which I have done with in the past, but I hadn't done it a lot since school. So.
Yeah, those are the types of things that, I guess people who are older than us, they need as far as in a business and an organization. but they kind of depend on younger people to teach them and develop them those skills because they didn't need a lot of computerized skills in older age groups. They had more
In
paper.
terms of the like Microsoft programs or like social media
But I would
or
say a
both?
little bit of both. Yeah, like
Okay.
I work with guys who are older, and they're like, "Yeah, a lot of this stuff we did by paper." And so I don't know if you
Yeah.
know what SAP is. I don't know if you had to use that, but it's like a software that organizes like they have notifications. So if you like had some work that you wanted to be done, so at my job at Owens Corning, that's what we use. So
Oh, it's like Fluke has e-maintenance. It's like where you can put in help tickets and yeah,
yes,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's like that. And it organizes your parts in your warehouse
Yeah.
and all that kind of
And you
stuff.
can charge parts and yeah.
Yeah. So like the guys who've been there for ages have to adjust to that system, and then that system is constantly adjusting or advancing, and then it's incorporating other aspects into it. And me as a technology person, I'm like, this stuff is ancient because like
Yeah.
you should be able to just I don't know like have a you should have a profile in this thing and like so let's say if I wanted to put in notifications or work orders, like you have to put in like a number code and then it goes to like all these different options and it's like, all right, who's putting in this? So you have to go to like your number code and all. I'm just like, it should just be like Facebook where I just like I have a
Yeah.
profile and then you can see all the work orders or notifications I put in, parts that I've used. Like that should be that seems like a no brainer to me, but industrial hasn't gotten to that point
So
yet.
at my previous job at the medical manufacturing company, we used a software like that by Fluke, the meter company
Mhm.
called e-maintenance. And it was very more user friendly, intuitive. The graphical user interface was very easy.
Mm.
So yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I agree. Because even some things with e-maintenance, I can't think of anything right now. It's been a minute since I've used it, but I even said to myself, this could be so much easier.
Yeah, and even with like Rockwell, their stuff, like once I really got used to it and started using it in
Oh, the
application,
software for the PLCs.
yeah, that stuff, I'm like, this is kind of ancient. Like,
Yeah,
there's no Bluetooth involvement in any of this stuff. Bluetooth has been around since I think like the late '90s or early 2000s. Like
yeah,
all this stuff, this technology, it's cool, but it's still kind of really far behind, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. I would agree. Um,
There seems like a trend though that I've heard is that industrial is usually far behind. Have you seen that in every place that you've gone?
I don't know if I would say, or yeah, I guess it depends on the aspect. Yeah, yeah, I can see how that could be said. And it actually, one of the topics I wrote down to potentially talk about, and maybe we can move on to that was why AI when it comes to manufacturing
Oh,
and
okay,
how
yeah.
that may start to play into what we're talking about or what we started talking about.
Okay, so I already have something for that. So,
Okay.
for the longest time at my job, I was literally the only person in electrical slash automation. Like there was nobody else. So, I was a department of one, and
One of one.
yeah,
That's a good place to be. That's job security.
but it also sucks because if they have a problem at
Yeah.
any time, 24/7, if they have a problem, I'm the only person they can call.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, that would be awesome if I could use AI to like help them answer questions. But again, like everybody I work with is older than me. Like there's literally nobody there except for one mechanic that's younger than me. So I was like, let me just try something. So I knew the answer to a problem, and I asked ChatGPT a question. It was like, if a PowerFlex 40p or PowerFlex 700 drive is having this fault. How should I troubleshoot or something like that? And it gave me some pretty solid answers. Like,
Really?
yeah, none of
Huh.
them were the exact fix, but
But it gave you a place to start.
they were all things that the average person should do. Like, no
Huh.
joke. They gave me like 6 suggestions, and all of them were very good suggestions. And I was
It's
like,
amazing.
oh my God.
It's amazing. So I'll give you an example from now my job. We social media marketing come up with posts. We're using AI to generate posts. ChatGPT generated a post about robotics, and it'll put out a post about robotics.
That's
It's
awesome.
it's unbelievable.
So are you using just one, or are you doing multiples, like using some to generate art, or are you just using like text based?
Most mostly just text based so far. I can't, sorry. So far text based, and it's far and few between because the company really hasn't signed off on using using AI generated stuff. So I may have been a little load. I wanted to see what it would do.
Yeah, yeah. So even funnier, I started doing online schooling with Full
Nice.
Sail University, and
Oh, my buddy works there.
okay, great, great.
Yeah.
So I finished after AAM. Actually, during AAM, I was doing audio production, and then I stopped after about 10 months, and they gave me like a grad certificate. I'm just trying to use up all my GI Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
And the
stopped about
BAH.
yeah, yeah. So about 10 months, I stopped. They give me a grad certificate, and then I go back and I do music business, and I finish my bachelor's degree in music business, and
Okay.
then after that, I've started going back again, just like last month, and I'm doing like cinematography, but I only have like 3 months left. That's why I'm going,
Okay.
just to use my like last three
Yeah.
months. And my first class was like strictly essay stuff. Like I just had to answer questions. They gave me a prompt, and it's like answer these questions. I used AI for every single homework assignment. Got a
That's
hundred
amazing.
on every single homework. I got
That's crazy.
aced the whole class strictly AI. I was like, this is awesome. So my next class that I'm in right now, it was like, you cannot use AI on it. I was like, how are y'all gonna know?
Don't they have software programs to run through and see if it's AI generated?
They possibly might. And if they do, I'm still confused on how they would know.
Well, I would keep going with it until they tell you, hey, we got there, you know? Like, oh,
Exactly.
sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like this, it's so
Change,
crazy.
change a few words.
And
Yeah, it's like plagiarizing thing. You know, they had the software, I forget what it was back in the day where they do to see if you plagiarize, copy and paste it from the internet.
yeah,
You change one, three, couple of sentences, and it's good.
yeah,
Probably
yeah,
gonna be the same thing. GPT generate an entire paragraph or essay, and you go through and you change the first and last sentence of each paragraph, and good to go.
yeah, yeah. I am confused on where, I guess, like where we're gonna go with this stuff, because everybody's like, AI is is going to take over the world and kind of
Or
stuff.
the morality of where it is, like if if it's going too far, how it would be going too far.
Yeah, what is too far? You
Yeah,
know,
well, and that's the $1 million question is, and I think it depends on the person too.
that's true. That's true because it's like what, even with, let's do something simple, simple gun laws. Like
Oh, here we go.
what is too far? Like what is too much? What's not enough? Because
And
everybody,
that varies by person. That varies by how they grew up. That varies by state. There's so many different variables that go into that. Which
exactly. And
Interesting.
I'm not a political person at all, and I think I really started learning more about politics like when we were in the AAM program, and because I think the 2020 election was coming up, and I just started like learning
The
about
midterms.
yeah
Oh
yeah
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
and I just started learning about just like why people. I'm 20 something years old at that point. I think I was 26 like when we were going through that, and I don't think I had voted. I can't remember. I don't think I'd voted at that point because just me, in my opinion, I don't think people should vote if they aren't educated on voting, and I wasn't educated, so I didn't.
I appreciate you saying that because I have said that and I've never meant any offense by it, but my thought was always I don't want your uninformed vote canceling out somebody who's informed.
Yeah, that's a tainted vote.
Exactly. And voting is, I mean, it's a right, but it's also a choice too. So it's also a privilege. But if if you're not going to take the time to be somewhat educated on the issues, stay home.
Yeah, yeah,
And I feel bad saying that because the more people that get out and vote, the better participating in the democratic process. But it really irks me when somebody says to me, "I just voted on it because I liked how they look."
mm,
No, take 30 seconds. You have the internet. It's literally in your pocket. Take 30 seconds a minute and look up the issue. Form an opinion.
yeah,
So I appreciate you saying that.
yeah. I mean, the problem is, so here's the catch 22. You don't want people voting if they're uninformed or uneducated, but you also don't want people not voting for just anything because the lesser of two evils is the horrible way for a presidency to be voted in. Like you,
Well,
go ahead.
and I'll take that a step further. And what if you're ill-informed?
Yeah, yeah. Misinformation is just as bad.
Yeah. I'd argue even worse.
And I think what was it the Hillary Clinton stuff? Like I think that was the worst situation because it was like we were trying to throw as much dirt on candidates around that time period, and she was going through all the email thing and Trump
Yeah,
stuff, and
the
I was
server. She washed the server.
yeah, and so I think at that point I think that election was very it was almost like you were trying to vote who you didn't want to become president. And I was like,
Well,
geez.
and that's unfortunate. It, it's an unfortunate product of the two-party system.
Yes.
Normally, we are choosing the lesser of two, and I don't like that, but unfortunately, it's better than a lot of the alternatives. Now, we can go into. So I don't know if I told you when we were back at AAM, but my major was political science.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I have a lot of time and thought into a lot of these subjects, but I'm a big fan of the multiple party system, because it's asinine to me that 300 million people will align one of two ways.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So to me, I've always said a strong third party candidate is a good thing, but it always seems like on the Democratic side, they're always saying a vote for the third party candidate is a vote for the other side, and I never really understood that.
That was actually literally going to be my next question to you.
Yeah.
Is are you a person who's like, if you don't like the Republican or Democratic, are you just going to vote for the one you like more, or are you going to vote for the third party?
It depends on the election.
Okay.
It depends on the person. There's a lot of variables that will play into it. But in a perfect world, I would vote. Honestly, I would abstain.
Okay.
Yeah, I would vote for things or races that I believe in. So let's say, for example, a state senator was on a ballot, or a national senator or representative was on the ballot, I'd vote for that if I felt strongly one of two ways. But if I really was undecided or I hated them both equally, I have no problem with abstaining. And that's another thing I've always wondered, why is that frowned upon? Why is abstaining frowned upon?
Yeah, like
if you're informed and you don't want to, why not?
Yeah, you've basically made it full circle to back to me not knowing anything, so I just don't vote.
Yeah. Which I don't want to say is a good thing, but once again, we're back to the lesser two of evil. Let's keep going with that circle.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say, like, you know, as you just said, it was a person who was full on. They were going to vote for Biden, and the reason why was because they were basically voting against, you know, issues or topics that Trump was talking about. So they weren't really, and they said Biden is a horrible choice. They were saying that they just thought that Trump was not going to be good for America at the time. So they're like, voting for Biden seems like the safer or better choice because of what Trump would do. And they were like, don't vote third party because they're not going to win. And I was like, that is the worst case scenario for America. Like, why are we in this situation?
It is. It's the worst. Well, sorry, I have a lot of thoughts. Yeah,
Go ahead.
The worst case scenario in America, but still, in a lot of places, it's the best case scenario. So I always try to never lose sight of that, because there's a lot of people that kind of lose sight to how lucky we are. There are many flaws, but there are a lot of positives, I guess you can say.
Absolutely.
Within the system that we do have, and we are lucky. So I try to never lose sight of that. But that being said, yeah, it sucks. We shouldn't be voting for who sucks the least. And when it comes to Biden versus Trump in 2020, or when do we have that?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah,
2020. Yeah, 2024 is coming up.
It's unfortunate, but I feel like we had a lot of people that were never Trumpers, and they said, I'll never vote for Trump, I'll vote for Biden. And that's an argument can be made how he won.
And I think Trump did what he was supposed to do. He captured the hearts of people who were like-minded individuals, and he even caught the attention of people who might just be against some of the things that Biden was for. So he knew his audience, whatever his marketing or branding team.
And he's a master marketer.
Yeah, yeah.
I think in 2020, he went a little off the rails because of his ego and his narcissistic ways. But you can't deny that the man is a master marketer and knows how to rile people up, sometimes in a scary way.
Yeah, he definitely took the no bad publicity is still good publicity like thing to heart.
And it's unbelievable. And it's never apologize, go full bore for ahead no matter what. Never apologize, never do that. Never retreat, just forward. And it's unbelievable what he does. He's literally the Teflon Don. I mean, what was it? A month before the election, the 2016 election, he was telling people he grabs women by the pussy, you know, and he still won. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. He definitely was able to do some stuff that we had not seen before. And
he wrote a playbook for certain individuals that have that swagger that he has, and I don't know if anybody else does, but it's unbelievable what he's able to do and who he's able to captivate. I've always said I never understood how a city slicking New York rich asshole win over these flyover state. I don't understand it. He doesn't. He pretends to identify with them, but I don't get it. How does he?
I don't know. But I think the good thing about Trump is he's real and he's authentic. Like he's unapologetic. Like he's not.
And he speaks his mind.
Yeah, and he speaks his mind. And so like we're not confused with Trump. We know exactly who he is.
Well, and that's the wild thing about all these indictments and cases that are being brought against. Forget the politics of it and the opinion of it, but most of these cases, you have to prove mens rea, guilty mind. He had the intent, and he speaks off the cuff. He doesn't. There's no other than what he's saying in the moment. So it's hard to prove that there was a conspiracy or he premeditated. He just fucking says it, and you know. So there's no. What's wild about him? I feel like that's what resonates with the people in the quote unquote flyover state, like you said.
Yeah, and I think even if you think Trump was the worst president ever, you have to admit having him as president was kind of like a reset button for America. It was kind of like oh, this is possible. It's possible to put some rich dude in here who knows how to talk, who knows how to do what he wants to do. And like, to be honest, like he represented America, like I guess like the top level of America, like the billionaires of America, like
the 1%.
Yeah. He represented them to the fullest. And I think he was, I would say maybe stereotypical America. He represented stereotypical America. Like obviously he doesn't represent most people, but just from the outsiders looking in, what America, we're all about our freedom. That's what we preach, and we're all about doing what we want to do. And the country was founded on rebellion. So we were basically telling
the British to get the fuck out.
Exactly. Like that's how we became a country was, hey, these are the things that we want. You're not doing it for us. We're going to do what we want to do. So that's what Trump stands on. He's like, hey, I'm going to do what I want to do. You put me here. So, tough luck.
Well, and this kind of brings me to another thing that I thought that we were able to talk about. The last time we talked was 2019. The things that have changed since then.
Oh, man.
I actually went back in preparation for this, and I listened to both the podcasts we did just to kind of see what we talked about. The national debt, about that, it was at 22 trillion. 10 trillion in debt.
It was at 22 trillion?
It was at 22, I believe. At 22 trillion.
And we're at what now?
And we just crossed into 32. It's 2019.
Where did we find 10 trillion?
COVID. And that's another thing I brought up too. That little elephant in the room is COVID.
So can you track, I know there's a website that has it's constantly just counting up.
The debt ticker?
Yeah, but does it do history? Like, can you see a date?
I'm sure there's a chart, yeah.
Because I'm sure there's a spike when those COVID checks went out.
Yeah. Well, that's all the inflation. Let's see. The debt tracking, that's us. Yeah, we're at 32.6 trillion.
That's
so we're crazy. For the hump to 33.
So let's put that in perspective. Since 2019, we went up 10 trillion and it was at 22. So it went up 30%, or was it 300%?
I'm not a math guy. Around there.
It went up 1/3 of what it was. Let's
Yeah.
do that. In 4 years, compared to it accumulating 22 in the entirety
And
of the country.
unbelievable.
That is insane. I've
Those,
never heard
those
anybody
stimmy
mention that.
checks, man, those stimmy checks.
I've never heard anybody mention that. That's so crazy.
And that's why I wanted to go back and listen, because his, you know, you got to pay attention to history to learn moving forward, and history always repeats itself, unfortunately, because too many people don't go back and listen.
That is insane.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, 22 and coach, and then we had our long talk about the money college sports.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that was when NIL was first starting to become a thing. I'm sorry,
okay.
no, NIL, the transfer portal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, NIL, that was what, like 2 years ago?
Less than, yeah,
Yeah.
around
So
there. Yeah,
transfer portal just becomes a thing. And I guess we were
yeah,
talking about, because you're a Miami fan, right?
correct. Yeah,
So we were talking about the fact that Miami would probably benefit, because we were like, everybody wants to go to Miami, right? You're in Miami and all this money flowing. So,
if they didn't suck. Yeah,
and honestly, I'm still shocked. I'm still shocked that why are you going to Ohio State? I know they got money, but like you're in Columbus, Ohio. What's there? Like they're a big, if you're
and now it's the NIL deals.
yeah. I mean, if you're an adult, Columbus, Ohio is great. They've got a lot of factories and industry and stuff like that. But
And it's a great little town. Have you ever been there?
yeah, I've driven
Okay.
around there, but yeah,
Okay.
somebody told me that Columbus is like the capital of new food. So if you're going to, if a corporate company is going to start like a new restaurant, they put it in Columbus, Ohio, because it's like one of the most diverse cities or something like that.
I would believe that. I have a friend from the Coast Guard who is outside of Columbus, and I've been there 2 times now, and it's a great little town. It is very diverse. There's a lot of different restaurants, bars. I mean, obviously you have the Ohio State college bars, but yeah, it's a great little town. And there's a big hockey fan too. So a lot of the guys that play for the Columbus Blue Jackets for a long time are staying there because they love Columbus.
Yeah, and so going back to my point, like I still feel like NIL is not working out the way I thought it was going to work out. I thought everybody was going to go to Florida, Miami, UCLA,
USC.
USC, like all the schools that are in the party areas. But it did not work out that way. It was just like all the good schools just got gooder, and that was it.
Because they had the money.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, and now we're throwing the realignment,
yeah.
which the money is really starting to show there.
Yeah, so we all know USC has deep pockets, and now they're going to be in the Big Ten. Let's see. I can't think of really any other school that's moving that has like a ton of money.
Well, you got, where's Texas moving to?
Oh yeah, Texas is going to the SEC, so that's another school.
SEC, yeah.
Them in
So
Oklahoma.
you're right, but there's some other big money schools that are moving.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Where do we stop with? When's it going to end? Are we just going to end up in conferences where they play each other all year and then it's the title?
So
and it leaves everybody outside looking in?
What's funny is it's almost the concept of like I don't know if you pay attention to music much, but like in music, what happens is you have trends. So like everybody knows about disco and like 80s hair bands and stuff like that.
Genre trends.
Yeah. So you have these trends of where like in a certain decade, people just do things. 90s, we had hip hop. like Run DMC and stuff like that. Ice
And then
Cube.
you had the boy band in the early 2000s. Is that
Yeah,
kind of where you're going?
you have these phases, and then all of a sudden they phase out. People are like, "Oh, that was cool," but now it's not cool anymore. And then somebody recreates that thing and makes it cool again. And so that's why I feel like college football is going to do. Like, we're going to go to this like playoff format, and it's going to end up being like college basketball where we got like 64 teams or something like that.
And then we're going to go back to the BCS.
And then we're going to go back to the BCS. Because they're going to be like, oh, this is too much.
We're going to have arguments over who's 1 and 2 again.
What if ChatGPT could just tell us who should be the best teams? What if we had a computer?
Well, wasn't that the computers with the BCS?
Exactly.
It was always the computers.
That was the BCS. It was a computer that told us.
Yeah. So it was the early form of ChatGPT, and we just didn't know it.
So yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, oh yeah, that's what we're going to end up doing is like, oh, people can't make this decision. Let's let a computer decide. That was the BCS.
I love that. I haven't thought about that. We're gonna go back. We're gonna be trendsetters.
And then
start tweeting about it now.
And then 50 years from now,
Xing, whatever it's called.
Yeah, X. And then 50 years from now, they're going to go back to a playoff format or something. So yeah, it's just going to be a never-ending cycle because you can't make people happy, especially nowadays. Like the BCS or the playoff format is exactly what's going on in America right now. Like nobody can be satisfied. With the youth generation, Gen Z, they talk about they're wanting the pronouns and everything like that, and people just can't be satisfied. Whatever you give them is not good enough. So they gave us. So technically, we had like a 2-team playoff, which would be the BCS. You pick one team, yeah. And then you had the 4-team playoff, and now they want to do is it 12 next?
18, 16, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever's next. And then it's probably going to expand. I think the most they'll do is probably 16. I don't think they'll do.
You think it'll expand to a 16-team playoff?
I think that will be the most they will ever do. Are
they going to lower the amount of regular season non-conference games?
I also think, which I think this is horrible for college football, but I say this because I do like the aspect of this is a horrible word, but charity. So, and Nick Saban, I'm a big Alabama fan. He talked about this. He talked about how the kids from Charleston Southern, the kids from the Citadel, they walk into the University of Alabama football stadium and their mouths just drop. They love it. They're in the stadium and there's, more fans than they've ever seen in their life. They're taking pictures and it's like, hey guys, you got a football game to play. But
you're talking about the non-conference games where they paid men or
exactly.
Yeah.
Those kids live for that. They go to those schools knowing that one day they might get to play Alabama. They might get to play Georgia. They might get to play these other schools. But what's going to happen is if we go to a 16-team playoff, they're going to eliminate that.
Yeah.
You're going to play SEC 12 games a year, and then you might get the playoff. And that's what's going to happen.
What do you play? You play 3 non-conference games per year, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's 3 non-conference, yeah.
I think we're going to go, what is it, 12 regular season games?
Yeah. Alabama played. Well, did they play 10 or 12? Let's see. When during COVID, you had to play all SEC teams or all conference.
That's what I think it's going to go to, and I think they're going to reduce the amount of games in the season. I think you're only going to play your conference for 9-10 games.
Yeah.
No out of conference games, and then the non-conference games are going to disappear.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was 10 games or 12 games that they did during that COVID year. But, they were all conference games. shoot, they might throw some bye weeks because they get what, one bye week, right?
One bye week.
So they might add another bye week or something like that, and it's going to be like the NFL. NFL
Well,
16 teams, right?
16 weeks. Is it 16 weeks?
Well, 16 teams for their playoff because you get what, the wild card, and then you have your divisional, then conference, and then Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So wild card, division, conference, Super Bowl.
Conference,
so yeah, it should be
Super
4.
Bowl. Yeah.
Should be 16 teams. So yeah, it's going to be like the NFL eventually.
Yeah. Well, and even the NFL reduced the season. So
Yeah.
to me, that's only a sign that they're Eastern College than to the conference.
They're going to start a preseason in college.
which is sad because there's a lot of especially with all this realignment, there's going to be a lot of non-conference games that are rivalries that can be eliminated.
Yeah. That's something.
Sad.
Yeah, Saban that mentioned that. He was like, I don't know how they picked our division teams, because I think Alabama picked up Tennessee, Auburn. I'm sorry, Tennessee. No, you can't even pick Tennessee because it was like the teams that they have to play in the West. So it's
the non-conference conference games.
Yeah, it's like the teams that you like mandatory. You play these teams every single year, and he was like, I don't know how they picked those teams because they added, Alabama had their regular schedule that they always, teams they always played, and then what was it, 10 years ago or close to 15 years ago, they added A&M and Missouri, the SEC did, and then
Speaking of, not to get off topic, have you seen the Johnny Manziel documentary?
I haven't, but I can't wait.
I just watched it last night, hoping and praying you for tonight.
Go ahead and spoil it because I already heard about.
Oh man!
They said something about he lied about the oil. Was that his parents? Was that?
Yeah. So they introduced his friend who was his like unofficial manager during the time he was at A&M. And when it started to break that he was making a few pesos off signing an autograph, he concocted a story that it came from oil and released it out to the media. And it was so funny how in the doc he basically said, I saw this going south in a few ways, and I had contingencies for each one. One of them was that. Then he went on to explain that I concocted a story that Johnny came from oil money and his family hadn't, which was complete bullshit.
That's so. See, that's something like that. It blows my mind how that doesn't get just discredited. Because you're telling me nobody knew Johnny Manziel. You know what I'm saying? It took one person to just make a tweet saying that's not true.
So, one of the things I was reading was journalism, at least college football journalism, was at its lowest point in 2012 when it came to the Johnny Manziel. You know who else was up with him for a Heisman in 2012? Manti, the one with the fake girlfriend.
Yeah.
Failure of college football journalism to do the due diligence. They couldn't figure out Manti Te'o had a fake girlfriend, and they couldn't figure out Johnny Manziel was an autograph for a shit ton of cash.
And they chose the Manti Te'o story. They chose that one.
Well, first the documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They thought that was more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see how, like, Johnny probably went to a decently sized school in high school because I think he wasn't he from Texas?
Yeah, Kerrville, which is like an hour outside of San Antonio, I believe.
So, like, you're telling me nobody he went to high school with didn't say anything about, like, he's not rich. You know what I mean? Like, it just took one person to say, he's not rich.
Yeah. Or that you can do the due diligence. No, it's too good of a story.
That's so
and
crazy.
That's a lot of what the documentary, well, not a lot of it, but fair amount of it was, and as a Miami fan, it warmed my heart when they interviewed Johnny. I am a deep appreciation for the NCAA, and I go, me too. Those fucking scumbags.
Yeah. I mean, the NCAA has definitely been a horrible organization. Number one,
Oh,
they don't know what they're doing.
well, and they talked about this in the documentary about how IL was in when Johnny Mandel. I mean, he saw how much money they were making off his back, and they interviewed him. I'm gonna get mine too,
Yeah,
and I can't blame him.
yeah, yeah,
What am I? I'm supposed to get P squares in a cot and play football, and I'm watching the school build new stadiums and sell all these jerseys, and I'm not getting any of it.
yeah,
Come on, and this goes back to the University of Miami in the U dot, where they're like, I got a kid, I got to feed my baby.
yeah.
I'm I'm gonna do what I need to do.
I don't remember what this was from, but they did a story. Do you remember Arian Foster? He played running back for Tennessee. I think he also
Yeah,
played for the Houston Texans.
he did.
But they had him on, and again, I don't remember what this was from, but he was talking like, who was the old coach? Was it Philip Fulmer, coach of
For
Tennessee?
who? Oh, Tennessee.
I think it was him, but he was Arian Foster was like, yeah, there were times where I was literally just like starving at night, and I would ask my coach, I would like call him or text him and be like, hey, like we're hungry, and so the coach would like
Yeah,
give them some money so they could go to like Taco Bell and get some food.
it's crazy. It's crazy. They interviewed documentary. They interviewed Kingsbury. He was the O coordinator, QB coach at the time at Texas A&M,
Mm-hmm.
and they he basically said we we tried to control Johnny, but there was only so much to do off the field.
Oh my
It
god.
was highly entertaining. It was short, actually. I wish they would have been in depth of the uh, antics we got into, and the psyche and mindset behind Cliff Kingsbury and how to deal with coaching with him, and Kevin Sumlin is the head coach.
Yeah, and honestly, I think now this is just me outside looking in, but I think college players are more mature and controllable now than they were because of NIL. Like now that they can make money, it's like that's one thing the coaches don't have to worry about. It's like, oh God, what is he doing to go make money? It's like, oh yeah,
Well,
he
and
can make money now.
they have to worry about it in a different way.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think you can make an argument that it's less free now
yeah, yeah,
because you kind of know what's going on. Before it was in the shadows. Now you know, all right, this has got a $3 million check I'm doing this year. I know what he's going to go out and buy a Mercedes. He's going to go out and do this. And I'll control it from that.
yeah. I remember the funniest story I think I had heard from NIL was C.J. Stroud when he was at Ohio.
Ohio.
Yeah, when he was at Ohio State, he he had a car dealership contractor deal and they partnership, and they were going to give him like a I forgot what kind of car. It was some like Mercedes or something. And he was like, he took it, and then he was like, never mind, I'm gonna get the G wagon instead. I was like, oh my god, what have we come to?
It's 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 ridiculous in another way now.
Yeah, yeah,
And with the advent or I mean, social media was around that then, but now it's you have the influencer culture, and being a Miami fan, you look at like the Cavender twins playing women's basketball. They're now parlaying that into a deal with um I always want to say Jake Allen, but what the hell is his name? The one who just fought
Jake Paul.
yeah, Jake Paul. Um with the better company. They're doing a podcast now. They're making whatever they post. It's just crazy with the influencer culture and what they're able to parlay these playing sports into now. And then you also think back to, like, for example, Johnny Manziel, how he could have done the same. He didn't want to go to the Cleveland Browns. That's another part of the documentary. They basically, like, propped him up draft day and combine day to where he was like most attractive candidate. They were posting on his social media that he was working every day. And one of the most wild things in the documentary for me, spoiler alert here, if you're watching, turn it off. He went out the night soon before the combine and called his agent. I'm not going to pass the drug test. The agent was like, "We've been working months to try and get you in the first round. You got to be kidding me."
Oh my God!
So they formulated a plan. He's like, "I'm gonna fix this out. I'm gonna Pedialyte and water and grab 7 drug tests." The agent, or the man, whatever he was telling a story about how he got into the elevator in Atlas, where the combine was, one of the hotels, and there were scouts and general managers in the elevator with him while he had the drug test, and he was like trying to hide them while he was on the elevator and bringing it up to the room. They called his dad, Johnny Manziel. He faked a hospital stay so Johnny could leave the combine early and not do the drug test.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Wild. They fleeced the Cleveland Browns, getting him, what is it, 22 in round 1, whatever it was.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. I saw somebody posted the clip on Twitter of or X, and I'm never gonna get used to that.
I know. Fatal flaw of Elon on Twitter. You can figure out the verb.
Yeah, but it was the clip of him talking about his iPad hours of game film, and then he was like, that was so funny. Because that reminded me, did you ever hear the story of, who was it? Jamarcus Russell?
Oh, yeah. Zero.
Yeah.
Well, and that was so funny in the documentary. They went to, so you probably saw the clip of Johnny Manziel doing
Zero, actually right? Doing that, yeah.
Before that, in doc, they show, it's a clip of his agent saying, I had somebody from Brown calling me. He doesn't watch any film. And he doesn't watch any film. And he goes, you got to be, what do you mean? He goes, no, it says 0 hours. Watched on his team-issued iPad. And then they cut Johnny Manziel. Then that's when you see him go, 0.
Oh, my God. That dude is a national treasure.
Kind of wrapped that back to my original point of that up was, if he had NIL deals and the social media thing, influencer culture available to him back then, he was already a star. And they showed him partying with Drake and Justin Timberlake and all these celebrities. He could have laid that into millions of dollars a year. Never stepped foot on a football field ever again, especially for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, like at a certain point, it's all. Which I don't know if. Let's just look at NIL as like a stock, right? So, all right, perfect example. I bought stock in Rivian. Do you know what Rivian is?
I do.
Okay.
I had a friend who did, and I held off.
Okay, so I bought the day they went public, and I bought a lot because what I ended up doing was I had some stocks and some other stuff,
Was that
and
around $20 the IPO?
no, it was higher. It was like 100, I think.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. So I bought a bunch for about $100, and it went up to like 120 or more. And so I had a total, I think, of $14,000 in shares in Rivian. Like, and I think I'd made over 10 grand or something like. I can't remember the numbers, but I'd made a lot of money. But
Fair amount.
for me, a lot of money in stock
Yeah.
that I had not made in any other company. Plummets. I think now it's at like 20 something dollars.
Well, wasn't that when they realized that the CEO was like pushing the trucks down the hill to take the videos?
I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, I'm sure it was Rivian. That's the trucking company, right?
Yeah, they've got, was it the R1T, and then they have like an SUV. That's all they have is like a truck and an SUV.
Oh no, I lied. I'm thinking of a different company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a EV trucking company,
Hmm.
and it came out that they were filming their like videos
Hmm.
on a downhill slope, and the trucks didn't actually work. I can remember the company.
They just went out of business, didn't they? I think I just saw something like when I opened up my Google Chrome browser, it's on Google News, and I
Yeah.
think that's what it said. Like the EV trucking company, I think they just went out of business.
I gotta look this up.
Because I didn't know about them.
Nicola, that's it.
Nicola, okay.
I believe so. Yeah, charged with fraud. Yeah,
Mm,
Nicola.
that's so crazy. And
That was, and he was charged with fraud for frauding investors.
that's so crazy.
Yeah, because he filmed their promo videos with trucks going down a hill that didn't actually create movement.
Dude, so that reminds me, have you seen the documentary, or there's a few of them out there, of Elizabeth Holmes?
No.
Oh, dude. This is one of the funniest and greatest stories in America. So, she,
Wait, I'll let you continue, but I think I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
the Theranos story.
Yes, the medical
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. She just went to prison.
Yeah. She just went to
Yeah.
prison. If I were you, I would watch The Dropout on Hulu. I don't know if you have Hulu,
Okay.
but
I do.
okay.
Go
Watch,
into a little bit though, a little bit of background.
all right. So for everybody who's watching this and hasn't seen The Dropout or know about this story. So Elizabeth Holmes, this is, again, I'm going off of from The Dropout, but she was a super smart young female who ends up going to college, and like they showed a pretty cool clip her freshman year. I think she's at Stanford. I can't remember, but she is she's in this class, and like her professor really liked her and really thought that she was like super smart, and so he brought her to like the graduate class. So like she's a freshman. She's in a like a lab type class with a bunch of like graduate students, and like they're trying to figure a problem out, and then she's just kind of listening, and then she figures the problem out, and like a couple of them are like talking about how she's wrong, and then the professor, no, she's right. But they're like slowly trying to show you how smart she is. Well,
Okay.
she ends up creating a company called Theranos, and the whole point of Theranos was to be able to prick your finger and get a drop of blood and be able to like run tests and diagnose you within a little machine. The machine was probably about yay big, and it was supposed to be able to diagnose you and give you all these tests within like, I think it was like within an hour or something. And currently, like right now, we do not have that technology. Like we don't have the technology to be able to do that. But she was claiming that her company had
So we did.
invented, yeah, they invented this machine that could do it. So she had raised like billions of dollars. Like her company was worth billions of dollars. They went public and you can buy shares and whatnot. And years go by and she's like bringing in all these investors or having meetings, and she's telling them like, yep, we're doing this, we're doing that, and we're ready to start this phase. And then they get a little anxious, a little antsy, and they're like, hey, where's the product? She had made deals with CVS. She had made deals with all these huge companies that she was going to put her machine in their stores. And I think like even with the military and some other stuff, but never had a real machine. Never came up with one. Yeah. And so her and the guy that she went into business with got sentenced to like close to 10 years in prison. And that was like a few years ago, and they just now got sentenced, and she just now started serving her time. But they already said she's going to get a reduced sentence for like good behavior or something like that. Good behavior,
yeah.
I was like, she's been in for like a couple months.
Speaking of asshole fraudsters, did you see Sam Bankman-Fried, the FTX guy? They just revoked his bail because he's trying to intimidate his ex-girlfriend who turned state's witness. They just revoked his bail.
I didn't hear about the whole story, but I heard that they were like, yeah, you're good.
No, I guess he was trying to intimidate one of the witnesses in the case against him, was his ex-girlfriend, I don't know her name right now. And the judge in New York said, nah, you're done. Get in jail.
Oh, okay. So that at first they were gonna like have a bail or something that he could just pay.
At first they gave, when everything broke, when was it, January, February, or year, gave him bail, saying he was on house arrest at his parents' house in Palo Alto in California. But it was just recently brought to light that he was trying to intimidate his ex-girlfriend, who was also his witness, trying to save herself, against Bankman-Fried. I don't know what he did to intimidate. I think he leaked certain documents, press thing around that. I don't know exactly, but the judge today or yesterday said, get to jail.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. What a scumbag.
Oh my God. Somebody needs to this is too broad of a subject, but somebody needs to do a documentary on just like the money crisis, right? So like, why are debts so high? Pharmaceutical companies, how they're just profiting money. There's actually a really good, I don't know if you have Apple TV, but the Jon Stewart show, he's got the show.
What show?
It's called The Problem with Jon Stewart, and it's only on Apple TV. And it's actually really good, which I like Jon Stewart when he was on The Daily Show.
Yeah.
But with The Problem with, it's called The Problem with Jon Stewart, but like every episode, it's actually like the problem with taxes, the problem with...
Yeah, the problem, and
yeah. So he did one with taxes. That was really cool. And he did talk about healthcare and stuff because, like, go ahead.
The tax system itself and how it's implemented, or like evasion and waste, or all the above?
Yeah, basically all the above.
Okay.
But mainly how the tax system works. And he started talking about healthcare, which was some stuff that I was familiar with but didn't know a lot about. He started talking about how, like, basically we pay taxes so that we can have good healthcare, and then what happens is we pay it to, or our taxes are supposed to go to, like our insurance companies, like Aetna and was it Cigna, like all these. Those
are some of the big ones. Blue Shield, yeah.
Exactly. So our taxes are supposed to go to them so that they can be like the middleman to pharmaceutical companies and hospitals, so that we can get cheap medical care. But what happens is that the hospitals and stuff jack up the prices because they know the insurance companies are going to pay it.
Pay for it.
And then they jack up our prices so that we could pay on top of the taxes that we're already paying. And it's like, oh my God.
It's just a snowball effect.
I was like,
I
that
mean,
is
that
crazy.
again, let's bring that back to college. They keep raising. They talk about the not the bailout, but the student loan forgiveness.
Yeah.
One of the arguments against it was you're just going to keep forgiving it. They're going to keep raising prices because they know the government's going to subsidize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very interesting how helping people out and ultimately end up in the long run.
Yeah, that's the problem with America for like capitalism. Like we're a country that wants socialism through capitalism, and it doesn't work that way.
Well, and socialism is a great idea on paper
Yes.
until you deal with the human aspect of it, where you're greedy.
Yeah. And
And that's not to say people can't be greedy in a capitalist society, but at least you have the competition and choice.
I think the clear-cut example of America can't be socialism was COVID. They told us limit 3 of this, limit 5 of this in the stores. And what did everybody do?
I'm getting 1,000 rolls of toilet paper.
That everybody looked out for themselves. They got what they needed for their family. They went straight into survival mode, which I don't blame anybody. I don't blame anybody for going into survival mode.
I got a question though. Why hoard toilet paper? You got to leave. There's other ways of wiping your ass.
Yeah.
I never understood the toilet paper. Water, food, baby. Toilet paper, I don't get it.
I don't know. And it might have been one of those things where companies might have planted some people to get toilet paper and then everybody else started freaking out. You know, it's like one of those
It was
things.
a trend.
Yeah, yeah.
It was an influencer trend.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where like you created a fear of something, so everybody was like, "Oh, I'm afraid of this too," and so they just started doing it. So I don't know. It's crazy, but yeah, it's that was to me was the clear cut example of we can't be socialist because everybody's going to look out for themselves. Everybody's going to get what they need, and it was like unscheduled. It was perfect because it was unscheduled. It was like running a fire drill in your company and not telling anybody. You just see what happens.
See what happens. How do people react?
Exactly. Yeah. And that was perfect.
Yeah. How, this is one of the things I had written down. How did COVID affect you? Did you continue to work? Were there, what?
So I had to take off, I think 1 week of work. They said, all right, everybody 1 week, like nobody's coming in. And then, ended up like the maintenance group, like we still ended up working the back end of that week. So everybody took like 7 days off or whatever. But like I ended up coming in on like the 6th or 7th day. And I claimed unemployment.
Was this right around like March 2020
Yep.
when it first
I think it was like the middle of March toward the beginning of April, sometime around then. And yeah, and they gave us that week off, and I claimed unemployment, so I got like $700 or something because I think unemployment is like $100 and something or $200 in the state of Tennessee.
And then you had the $600 or whatever it was.
Then the added like $600.
Did you go back to work after that week?
Yep.
If you don't want to say it.
Yep. I went right back to work that week.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. How did Tennessee, I know in Florida at the time, we shut down for like a month. I still had to go to work because we were a medical manufacturing company. Technically, we were essential.
Mm-hmm.
So I showed up every day. They adjusted our schedule. I went from working 3:30 p.m. second shift, 3:30 p.m. to 11:30 to 4 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. 4 days a week. They switched just to 10 hours a day, 4 days a week. So that's kind of how it affected me. Yeah, I never really went out on hours. In fact, I was working more because a lot of times I come in on Friday, maintenance or whatever it may be. But in the state of Florida, we shut down for like a month, maybe 2. And then DeSantis was like, free for all, go back at it. Kind of how it was.
Well, I think Florida and Texas were like the pioneers of we don't care what the rest of the country is doing.
Let it ride. Yeah,
Because
let
they,
it ride. If
they
you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't, go to the bar.
well they messed up when they were like vitamin D, sunshine. So the two states that get the most vitamin D and sunshine were like, oh, we're good. Because they thought they were the healthiest states.
I golf every once in a while, and they shut down the fucking golf course.
Really?
Why?
The most spread out thing you can do.
Yeah, I get limiting to like maybe one person per cart. Like, all right, I can understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
But shutting down the beaches and the golf courses, you can't get more spread out than that.
Yeah, so me and my wife actually, we had planned a trip to San Diego, or not San Diego, Los Angeles in July of 2020.
Of 2020.
Yeah, so COVID started hitting hard around like March, April, and then we were in that weird phase of like, we think it's over around July because it was the summer and everybody's like sunshine and just being outside like kills all the germs and all that kind of stuff. So it's July and me and her go to Los Angeles, and it was kind of that, that middle ground because like we're wearing masks. And so, but we had been hearing stories about the police, like, getting people for not wearing masks and stuff. So we go to the beach,
especially in California.
Yeah. So we're at the beach in like Santa Monica or something. We're wearing masks on the beach and just like looking around. We're like, there's no cops out here. So we start taking our mask off. Because
the best was when they started to reopen Florida events. I went, like I said, I'm a big hockey fan. They reopened the Florida Panthers arena, and they had everybody, but they were only selling certain tickets in certain areas. And I went with a good buddy of mine, and they said, unless you're actively drinking or eating, you have to wear a mask at the time. Guess who was drinking the whole time? I wore the beer like.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Yeah, I mean they.
Funny. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say they kept coming up with these rules without any kind of knowledge.
Well, it's not. Well, an argument can be made for that, but there's also an argument that maybe could be made for it. They were relying upon information, the time that they had, and acting upon that. Whether it was good or not is up for debate. But it's so funny to think about some of the shit that we did during COVID. And my favorite one to go back to is, you remember the one-way grocery aisle?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
What was that doing? What did that do? It's so crazy to think about in a time of panic or uncertainty, the kind of shit that we do, like one-way grocery aisle, and making sure everything is wiped down. They say wipe down your groceries when you get them home, and it's just crazy to think about some of the stuff that we did.
Yeah, and what it really did was it exposed how unprepared, not just America, the whole world is for that kind of situation.
I'll take that a step further. I think it exposed how mentally unfit we are to deal with a little bit of hardship.
Yeah, yeah.
A little bit of it. Yeah, I mean, you had people that, on both sides of the spectrum, you had the people that freaked out and wore a mask and leech on everything. And then you had I'm not wearing a mask, I'm not doing anything, I'm going to spit in people's faces, and I'm going to lick faces. Like the wild ass poles each end. I feel like we all kind of sorted to the pole. There was not a whole lot in the middle of like, let's think this through. Let's think about this rationally.
Yeah, because they basically wanted to make hard decisions immediately so that people weren't having to wait. They wanted to make sure people just had an answer. Yes or no. Can I go outside? Yes or no. So
and I get that's part of public policy. You kind of, as a public policy maker, you have to do that because it's wishy-washy. To me, where the problem was, no one was, well, I don't want to say no one, but there was a lack of honesty when it came to, okay, maybe this wasn't the best way of handling it, leveling public. Like, okay, we were acting on this until then. Now we have this, so we're moving to this. There wasn't a lot of that. And I think if there was more of that, instead of militant, no, keep wearing a mask when it was clearly showing that unless you wore a 3M N95, it really wasn't doing that. When you wore a bandana over your face, it wasn't doing a whole lot. To me, that's where, at least for me, that's where the issue came in. There was not a whole lot of leveling.
Well, dude, I gotta go. And I really want this to keep going, but
we didn't. Thing I wanted to get to, hopefully next time, is Dustin.
Was what?
Dustin Rogers.
Oh man, yeah.
I hope we can dedicate this episode to him.
Absolutely, yeah. For people who don't know and didn't see, I made a post about him as well. But Dustin was in the class with us, and he passed away. If you get a chance, please look at the podcast that I've done with him. But committed suicide. I've talked to his mom, and he was dating somebody at the time about the situation, and that's a rough thing to even ask. Like I didn't want to ask, but I also, wanted to make sure that the information I'd heard was correct. Mary Bagoon from the AM program actually was the first person to tell me. She said it as if I already knew, and I didn't. So she actually told me, and then yeah, that was rough. I was at work when I found out about it, when she had emailed me or something. So yeah, that's a serious thing that happens to a lot of military veterans, and yeah, it's not easy.
Too often.
Way too often. And I don't think anybody takes it as a joke or isn't serious about it, but it's something that I had not experienced myself until the Dustin thing, of somebody that I knew personally that was a military veteran committing suicide. But I think it's something that really helped me check in on people when they might be showing symptoms or signs of depression or something like that. And also just like what me and you are doing right now. Just talk to.
And sometimes they don't even show signs. That's the scary part.
Correct. And if you look back at that podcast that me and Dustin, because it was his idea. The second one we did
about mental illness.
Yeah, that was his idea.
It was hard to listen to, and I did to it, and I wrote a few things on in regards to it, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and every time I go back to that podcast, I'm just like, man, it's rough.
Yeah, rough. It was hard to hear that, knowing what we knew and seeing and going through what happened.
Absolutely. Well, again, John, it was great to catch back up with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will have to maybe do like a mid football season podcast or something like
Recap.
that. Yeah, and look back on what we talked about and what's been going on. Look at the debt, the company debt.
We'll see what we're at.
Yeah, but
let's stick with college football.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And I mean, you got anything else to say to the people?
Nah, I know you got to run. Like I said, dedicate this episode to Dustin.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for everybody tuning in, and we'll see you next time.